this political game that we play. But Alex Jones breaks it down so it's simple for the layman to understand. And yeah, he's not perfect. Yeah, he talks over people. Yeah, sometimes he doesn't give people a chance to talk. So what? It's not about the person, okay? It's about the information. If the information's good, who cares? You know, chances are, when people spend all of their time attacking others instead of attacking the New World Order, chances are they are one of two things. A complete loser who does this as a hobby and doesn't take it seriously at all, or a government shield, i.e. provocateur, agent provocateur. Anyways, U.S. veterans forcibly sequestered in mental hospitals is indefinite detention. This is by Susan Postle off of Occupy Corporatism. By the way, I want to thank a couple radio hosts for putting me down and attacking me on their radio shows. You have given me new followers. Thank you. After Special Justice Walter Douglas Stokes sentenced former U.S. Marine Brandon Robb to 30 days detention in the psychiatric ward of the Veterans Hospital, Circuit Court Judge Alan Sherritt dismissed the case, citing that the original petition was, quote, devoid of any factual allegations that sorry. Hold on. I have a little bit of allergies going on right now. Was, quote, devoid of any factual allegations that it could not be reasonably expected to give rise to a case or controversy. John Whitehead, attorney for the Rutherford Institute, and Robb has stated that since the former Marine's detention case, he has received numerous stated from other veterans who are being discriminated against. The latest trend is to have our former U.S. servicemen and women declared mentally ill and detained against their will. Just as Robb was forcibly detained in a mental ward, another veteran has been taken without charge or criminal activity. His firearms were confiscated and he was given a court date. In a study published in the Archives of Internal Medicine, collaborating with the VA Medical Center, an estimated one-third of veterans returning from Afghanistan and Iraq were determined to be mentally or psychologically ill. Touting post-traumatic stress disorder, more than half of returning veterans are considered suffering from a war-related mental disorder. The authors of the study explain, quote, our results signal a need for improvements in the primary prevention of military service-related mental health disorders, particularly among our youngest service members. Because they are young, they are more likely to be of a lower rank and more likely to have greater combat exposure than older active duty counterparts. However, the authors do admit that, quote, our results may overestimate the burden of mental health disorders because veterans with mental health disorders may be more likely to seek treatment at a VA facility than those without. Most recently is the inception of oppositional defiance disorder, which I went over, which is CRUD, which is basically the Soviet version of psychiatry, which is all of psychiatry, really, if you think about it, which is described as a mental disease wherein free thinkers, nonconformists, civil disobedience supporters, those who question authority and are perceived as being hostile toward the government are labeled mentally ill. When psychologists everywhere have shown that those who are mentally unstable are those who don't question government authority, those who don't question the official narrative on 9/11, they have psychological issues because they're not dealing with the actual problems. That's what psychologists say. But, you know, psychologists are crack nutcases, right? We can trust psychiatrists when the history of psychiatry is all about witch hunting and all kinds of crazy stuff. And, eugenics. We can trust them. When the DSM manual says that those who are free thinkers, nonconformists, and civil disobedience supporters, and those who question authority and the official story on 9/11 are obviously insane. Psychiatrists claim that sufferers have, quote, a recurrent pattern of negativistic, defiant, disobedient, and hostile behavior toward authority figures that persist for at least 6 months, which includes persistent stubbornness, resistance to directions, unwillingness to go along with the crowd, deliberately annoying others, testing limits by ignoring orders. So if you're given an order to kill a child, you should just do it. Because that's not mentally ill. What's mentally ill is defying that order. When you have pedophiles in government that kidnap children and rape them overseas while blowing their brains out on film in a satanic occult ritual to sacrifice them to their deity, you're not supposed to question them. You're not supposed to be defiant or disobedient towards them. You're supposed to listen to them because they're your authority figures. Right? The Rand Corporation asserts that the cost of caring for mentally ill veterans was more than $12 billion in 2007. Taxpayer money. And most of it was against their will. Catherine Watkins, senior natural scientist for Rand, so that means that you can trust what she says, even though she works for Rand, said, quote, with some changes, the VA could provide even better and more cost-effective care for the nation's veterans, as well as serve as a model for other healthcare systems. While you put the veterans on terrorist watch lists. Oh yeah, you really care for the veterans. Because we all know that caring for people means putting them on terrorist watch lists and then going after them and committing them against their will. That's so loving. It's the ministry of love right there. The Rand Corporation paints U.S. veterans as dangerous. See this doublespeak? Because of the degree to which they are mentally affected by their service exposure to war and warlike conditions. The globalist think tank says veterans are suffering from, quote, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, major depression, and substance use disorders. Doctors have classified chronic traumatic encephalopathy as an incurable brain disease that soldiers returning from war suffer from. After having injured the brain during battle, soldiers are being touted as displaying large bursts of anger and depression while having their motor skills and memory impacted. Obviously, CTE has never been chemically or technologically tested, but, you could trust globalists who want New World Order, who hate the military, who hate you, who want to kill you. You can trust them. Symptoms of CTE, as described by the globalist think tanks, are recognized as memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, impulse control problems, which can be brought on by antipsychotics and antidepressant medication, aggression, like SSRIs, depression, and eventually progressive Commanding the U.S. military writes, "We need Al-Qaeda!" And then they have Al-Qaeda commanding the Free Syrian Army overseas, backed by U.S. tax dollars. When it's come out that Al-Qaeda was created by CFR and the CIA this whole time. While admitting that they did not have definitive proof that, quote, domestic right-wing extremists are currently planning acts of violence. However, right-wing extremists may be gaining new recruits by playing on their fears about several emergent issues. The economic downturn and the election of the first African-American president present new, unique drivers for right-wing radicalization and recruitment. They must think you're just morons. But you are. Most of you are. And if you're a new listener and you're just joining us, if you believe that story, yes, you are. But of course, most people do believe known liars, even these days. The DHS wanted to instill the idea, because we all know that that's honest, right? To create a illusion of terrorism. That's the honest thing to do in the Orwell world. New World Order. The DHS wanted to instill the idea that veterans were being recruited to become, quote, right-wing extremists upon return from Iraq and Afghanistan. Because that's legal to do. And I'm being sarcastic throughout this entire article if you haven't caught that. Janet Napolitano intimated that military veterans